Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about one of the capabilities of Entra ID, which is going to be an email one-time passcode, right? What is it and how we can configure it, right? And this is the capability or this is the feature which is very helpful for the guest users when we are inviting them as a guest to the tenant, right? And this capability is also by default turned on for the new tenants, but earlier or before this capability was turned on by default, it used to be set as turn off. And now that capability is going to be always active and turned on, right? And there are different use cases where each organization wants to manage it effectively so that they wanted to either turn it off or turn it on for all the guest users and keep it using, right, as per their needs and as per their requirements, right? So basically, this is the feature when any user or any identity is being invited to access any of the applications or SharePoint sites or anything from the tenant, right? In that way, it is going to be either if it is going to be used or invited by the consumer identities like Hotmail, Outlook, Live. These are the different domains that Microsoft has. Also, there are third party like Gmail.com, Facebook identity, or maybe kind of Twitter. Right? So those are the social identity providers as well. Right? So those can also be integrated with this one, but definitely there is a separate setup to be made for all those social identities. But for the consumer identities, as I said, like Microsoft.com or not Microsoft.com, but the Hotmail, Live, and yeah, kind of similar.coms or Outlook.com, right? So those are the domains. Those are considered as consumer identities, and those can also be invited directly as a guest to the tenant, right? But for that, to authenticate their authentication when user accepts the invitation and then user has to get into the applications and systems to access the resources, be it any application, any site, any group, any mailbox, or anything that we are providing them, right? And that way, it is going to be definitely be an authentication process. So to do that, email one-time passcode is the one of the method that Microsoft has developed and is available for all the tenant, right? So I'm going to show you in this video how we can turn it on and off. That's pretty straightforward and easy and simple as well. But also there are something or there are different ways where we can use it, right? And I'm going to show you the flow, how that flow works as well, right? And if in case we wanted to disable it and enforce other ways of authentication, then there is one of the way which we can grant through conditional access grant control required MFA method, and by enforcing it for the external identities, not the internal one, because just as users are not the internal identities, those are the external identities, and that way that's going to be enforced, right? So I'm going to show you that in the another video, but I just wanted to show you this specific capability, which is email one-time passcode in this video so that you can also learn and see how we can make use of it effectively, right? All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I'll just share my screen quickly here and you can see that. All right. So let me share my screen here. All right, so I'm on Entra portal here, you can see. And to do that, we need to go to identity section over here, and then we have this option, which is external identities and then all identity providers. So once you click that, you will come to this path from here, and you will see different options over here. So these are the built-in, as well as we have options to create a custom one and use that custom option as well. But I'm going to talk more onto the built-in for now in this video. And this is the capability that I was talking about, which is email one-time passcode. Now you can see that it is showing as a configured. That means it is turned on for now. And there is options either set to turn it on and off. If just to know, then just know and save it. right? So this way it is going to be disabled for the whole tenant, and you can see that it is just refreshed, and it is going to be disabled as soon as we set it to no, right? But you can still see that there is a configured option. Similarly, for let's say Google and Facebook, these are the social identities that we can configure. And to do that, we need to add client ID and secrets from that application, from the Google developer account as well as from Facebook developer account. And from there, we can add those details, and then it's going to be easy for authentication purposes, right? So this is going to be additional topic that I'm going to do for these two one. But for now, this is the one. And also there is a similar way for Microsoft account as well. This one. So this is the Microsoft accounts targeting all the MSA account. MSA includes hotmail.com, yahoo.com, not yahoo.com, live.com and outlook.com, right? So those are the three domains that Microsoft has, and Microsoft owns those domains, right? So those are the MSA accounts where we can configure those, and those are already configured. So we don't really need to set it up, but definitely we have this option here to configure it for authentication purpose, right? So this is something which is applying, or which applies to all the Microsoft account as well as any account which is not Entra registered or Entra domain account, right? So it could be gmail.com, yahoo.com, hotmail.com, or any third party, like maybe if you have used any other .com domains which are not entry or Entra ID registered or Entra domain, right? So this is something which we can configure, and this is going to be a kind of one-time configurations, right? That's pretty easy and straightforward, but to understand its backend requirements and backend movement, how it works, how it handles the authentications and everything together. So I'm going to show you that flow over here in one of the image, right? All right. So this is the one of the image which was created by Microsoft only, but this is going to state the flow, how the flow works and how the communication happens, right? When user requests the access, user initiates the sign-in access, and then what the flow happens, right? So let's say this is the user. This user has initiated sign-in by entering the credentials. Then this hits the server, which is Entra ID server, right? And from there, it is going to send a one-time passcode via email. Then user retrieves that code from the email. Then user enters that code and try to authenticate. So what it does is it returns to that respective Entra system from where that code was sent. And then once that validates whether user is validated with a code and authenticated with credentials, then user gets the access to the system as well as whatever the workload and resources which were assigned to that user account, right? So this way it is going to be pretty straightforward. You can see there are steps mentioned. From one, user does try to request access, then two, sends email and retrieve the code from there. Then user enters the codes and hit the sign in button. Then that flow go back to the Entra server, and from there, once authentication happens, validation happens, then it's just going to give us the access as a user, right? So this is a straightforward flow which has just few steps, and this is going to happen in few seconds. It is not going to take a lot of time, right? And it is going to be straightforward for all the communications, that whatever is going to happen between client server, right? So this is basically client server flow, where client user as a client is trying to sign in and providing the right set of credentials and access requirements, and then server is going to handle and cater those requests, right? So yeah, this is how it is, and that's what I wanted to show you and talk about this video. And also, if you wanted to set up the conditional access policy, we can do that, but definitely that is not possible directly using either to email one-time passcode. That's something which we can do for external ID identities, by using conditional access policy for a require MFA and by setting it up the authentication context as well with the same policy, right? So I'm going to show you that in another video, and that's going to be pretty easy as well, but to very useful and wanted to enforce the conditional access policies and all of the details on the guest user accounts as well, right? So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk in this video and show you about email one time passcode and make use of it because this is going to be a great feature for guest users and that's by default turned on. So many of the time we really don't have to go back and see, but definitely we should make sure it is in active state and it's been used, right? And that is why we should take appropriate actions because this also brings up the security improvements areas as well as if it is not turned on effectively, then maybe it's a risk at one point, but definitely we should take appropriate actions, right? So yeah, that's all for this video. Don't forget to like this video and also share this video with the friends and colleagues and people around you so that they can also see and learn something new. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, right? So that's going to give you every new video whenever it is uploaded, right? So yeah, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.